Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above Average Shoe Show! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Above Average Joe Show. We are once again having another wonderful broadcast for you. Our guest today has worked as a savior on The Walking Dead. He has his own show, YouTube show, Cooking with Indy, and also another YouTube show, Drinking with Indy. And he's got some more stuff coming up that we'll talk about with Indy. And he has also played Mexican Jerry on a movie called Tag that has just come out recently. Our guest here today is Indiana Sifuentes. And as always, I am your host, Joe.
Estás muerto.
I don't even know what that means, and I'm kind of afraid to ask. But thank you for being here today, Indy. Thank you so much for being our guest. How are you doing here?
I'm doing great today. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. We are going to have a wonderful chat here today. I am so excited about this. I don't know if we've ever actually had a chance to sit down and have a chat more than maybe like 30 seconds on set or
That's
something
it.
like that.
It's the length of most conversations on set, and they always get cut off.
Unless you were miming them. The longest conversations on set are typically done in pantomime. But you are an actor.
Yes.
You've had some great day player roles that have been recently. And how did you get started in the industry into becoming an actor? Were you really young and wanting to be an actor? Did it not come until middle of your life or just recently? Or did you always aspire? Or was there like one movie that just stood out and was like, oh my gosh, I want to be the Godfather?
Right. I always thought actors were the profession was kind of a lazy thing, that there wasn't that much involved into doing it, because I'd been a dancer before, and I was a professional ballet dancer for many years. So the work involved into that, as opposed to the work an actor does, or the work that I saw an actor do, was easy. It wasn't even challenging. So I didn't want to be an actor. I didn't want to downgrade. And when I ended my career as a dancer, I went off into business. I did a bunch of other stuff. But I was really in love with The Walking Dead. My dad and I had been watching it from day one. And my dad's one of those really hard, masculine male figures that I find it hard to connect with him in any way. And Walking Dead did that for us. We could watch the show, get excited about it. We know the characters, do that emotional involvement, be pissed at the show together. That kind of thing.
Did you ever cry together during the show?
Probably, but
during someone's deaths or anything? And
you know,
I know that I shed deaths. I can't even think of her name. It was one of the sisters that died, and then she came back as a zombie, and then she had to kill her own sister as she was coming back.
Those were emotional. I'm sure we did, but I mean, we didn't like hold hands and cry with each other. But, you
didn't pass the tissues.
No, more on the down low.
It's allergies, Dad.
But it's definitely emotional, and that's why I love the show, is that we got to connect on those different levels. I thought I had told him I'm going to be on that show one day. But I had no idea how I was going to get on that show or what I would do. And it didn't take, it was years later that I was in the oil fields. And I had gone out to the oil fields to kind of redo my life, just concentrate on one thing. And you're working, it's brutal work. Yeah. It was one of the top three, in the top five, number 3, the most dangerous jobs in the world. So, and they were long ass hours, 85 to 120 hours a week, which is forever.
Yeah.
It's what we do on the film set. But on the film set, you're not working your ass off all day, every day.
Hurry up and wait.
Hurry up and wait. Out there, I was laying pipe all day, from sun up to sundown, and then driving to side and back from 3 hours each way. It was rough work, and I loved it. And it was I went out there to reset. You know, I had a badass bartending gig in El Paso, making a lot of money, but I was spending a lot of money accomplishing nothing other than having a good time. Which, after a while, it gets old, and you feel like you're wasting your life.
Yeah.
But I had a friend of mine, you know, and I had a dream that I'd love to be on The Walking Dead. I really wanted to, but I didn't know how much until I had a friend of mine in El Paso. And she was super healthy. She was an ex-dancer. She was a vegan and a CrossFitter. So
very healthy.
Yeah, super healthy. She's 33, had a master's degree.
Or very health conscious, at least.
And healthy.
Yeah.
And she just had a baby. She's married, newly married. And then she had a stroke at work. And her master's was in nursing. She was the head nurse at the ER. So she was at work, had a stroke, already where everybody loves her, fastest care possible, and she didn't make it.
Wow.
And she was doing everything right, and she didn't make it. And here I am doing crazy ass shit in the oil field for money. That's really, you know, and I make it through this and that, and I realized it was her time. And when is my time? So after the funeral, I decided I was going to pursue my dream. And I packed everything up and I moved. I made the drive from Midland, Texas, from El Paso, Texas, all the way out here to Georgia. Because I knew Georgia's a little state compared to Texas.
Yeah, every state's a little state compared to Texas.
So I figured I would find these vatos, whoever they are, wherever they are. I'd be like, I'll find them and I'll convince them that they need me on the show as a walker. Less than 3 months after being here, I got cast as a savior.
Nice.
And then I've done 4 seasons, and my dad's watched me on the show, so we've connected on a deeper level with this same show, and this fucking show is gonna be in my soul for the rest of my career.
It'll be on your gravestone, in your obituary,
right? And it wasn't even a speaking role. However, for not being a speaking role, the Saviors were a big portion of the storyline. It was about Negan and his boys, and so it was a great boost to my career, in that my fan base became very wide and varied across the world, from Germany, Spain, Brazil, Argentina, Canada, and obviously here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And then, it was like a dream come true to be on The Walking Dead. And I made it happen because I realized when it's your time, and don't waste your time.
Yeah, definitely.
And we filmed on my birthday.
Aww.
Out here. Yeah. It was that overnight where Abraham and Glenn go meet their maker.
Oh, wow.
And
not a great birthday gift.
it really was, because it was so brutal and so raw, and we were all experiencing it.
In a very iconic scene that everybody remembers.
Everybody will remember that.
Everybody will remember your birthday.
And right? That I never thought about that. It was, and then the conditions were brutal, and the whole cast and crew suffer the same conditions. Yeah. So
it was freezing those days, wasn't it?
There was puddles of water that were frozen over. It was, I think, 29 degrees, and they were overnights. Yeah. So it was cold, brutal cold.
And did you get a text also to come back? I know one of our other guests, Stacy, said that he had left set that night and got a text like an hour later, "We need you to come back." And they had like 10 of you. I don't know if you were one of the 10 that came back an hour later just to have your legs in the shots.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, I was down for whatever they needed, because it was a dream come true.
That is awesome.
Thank you.
And from The Walking Dead, what else have you worked on?
I've done just about every production that's come through town as a background artist. There have been several speaking roles that I've gotten that I'm very proud of. I work with BWC, Bravo Whiskey Charlie Films. They're a local independent production company, and they do a lot of stuff for veterans.
Wow.
yeah, it's great. We just, in fact, with one of those people, one of those veterans, I just did something yesterday. We did the Bearded Brothers. It's a dance video, and it's just dumb. A bunch of bearded big guys getting together and dancing, just for entertainment to benefit veterans.
Yeah.
But we do stuff like that. Bravo Whiskey Charlie, we've done Bounty Hunter, which is a western. He calls it a grits western.
Okay.
Because it's made out here in Georgia. And we've done that. We're still working on it, and that should be out pretty soon. It started its life as a short, and it's going to a full-fledged. And it's got a lot of good attention. Old style western. That's been one of my favorites. With him, I did a role as an Afghani fighter as well. What else have I done with him? Battletech or something like that in the green room. And then I've been working on. Oh, I was also in Caso Cerrado, which was in Spanish. So a lot of my fans here and across the world don't understand it, but it still has almost 900,000 views on YouTube.
Oh wow!
And Caso Cerrado it's an American, but in Spanish, telenovela style courtroom show.
Nice.
And so they're based on real stories, but actors portray.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in there, and I was supposed to be a really bad guy, and I pissed the judge off so much she broke her gavel. And it's crazy, crazy, crazy. How much attention that is, because I'm hoping to work on telenovelas. And telenovelas are so much fun, over dramatic everything.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm down to do that. So my first national release that went international that got a lot of attention was I was the only bad guy in a movie called Tag, T-A-G, which is about a bunch of middle-aged vatos that have been playing a game of tag since they were kids. And this last episode happens at the guy who's never been tagged at his wedding. And there's some rules to when they can't mess with his wedding and when it's open season and all that. And that's what the storyline's about. And I'm the only bad guy in that. And that's been, I think I was number 13 on the credits. So very lucky and very happy to have been a part of that, because it's a funny, feel-good movie. It might make you cry, just giving you...
Yeah. When I was reading the script, I was like, how are they going to end this movie? I mean, does the last guy get tagged and that's the end of the movie? Why would I watch an entire movie just to watch one guy get tagged? But when I read the script, because I also worked on that movie, doing background casting and stuff, and reading the script, I got towards the end, I was like, okay, yeah, I totally get how this is a great movie now. Wonderful, beautiful ending to it all.
And I got lucky to have my first big film in something that people enjoy. And in a way that they'll always, that if they're asking, oh yeah, you were in that, I'll be like, yeah, I was a bad guy. And they'll think back. And they'll be like, there was a bad guy. The only bad guy in my line. Oh, we went through a bunch of different versions of this and that, and ended up with "You're dead" in Spanish, in Español. Estás muerto. And then we yelled at each other for like 2 hours. Just yelled, just like ah, ah, ah. So that was a lot of fun. Hannibal was very fun to work with. I didn't get to work with the rest of the crew. It was just our scene.
Yeah.
But it was a great experience. Got my first trailer.
Nice.
I took my nap in my first trailer, which was on my bucket list. So yes, that was awesome experience.
And how much like hair and makeup did they do, or did they just take you as is? Because you have such a unique look that it seems to me like it's like, okay, don't change a thing. Or it could be like the director's like, maybe go a little bit shorter on the hair, because I know some directors can get finicky like that.
Yeah.
Did they do anything to you to change you up at all?
Tag is one of those productions that contacted me ahead of time enough to give me some direction, because usually like a day player role, if you land it, that means you auditioned, you landed it within like 2-3 days, and within 4 days, 5 days, it's filmed. Mm-hmm. So you can't really do much ahead of time. They didn't. They wanted, my beard was growing, and they wanted a crazy beard. And I was like, challenge accepted. So I have this massive beard, and I ended up being stuck with that beard because Walking Dead moved their schedule up 2 days. And so those 2 days that I was on, I got established with a big ass beard for tag. So I had to wear that beard for the entire season of Walking Dead.
And you still have it too, so it's not like you hate the beard.
Well, I shaved it.
Unless you're stuck with it still.
Actually, this look works for me better because I love playing a bad guy, and you know, I don't have the look of a good guy. I have the look of somebody that's going to get you in trouble.
Yeah.
And you're going to have fun. So those are the roles I go for. But I did recently just shave everything except my mustache. Then I shaved that and regrew. Because I did a role for Sherry Malin.
Okay, yeah.
She's my girlfriend. She's my manager. And she is co-creator of everything we do. She wrote a short story that I played the starring role as a father. And so I had to have that different look, more of a working class father that has vulnerabilities as opposed to a blue collar guy that's just overbearing. Mm-hmm. And little trivia: Sherry did not like me without a beard. But it grows quickly. It grows fast. Right now, a lot of the roles I have auditioned for, I've been auditioning a lot this year. I've been so freaking blessed and lucky. Call for something for this kind of look. So for the most part, I'll clean up a little bit. You know, like I may, depending on the role, I may shave my neck, but keep that, or I may trim it to look sharper. But for the most part, the main things I am casting is a villain, a homeless guy, or a guy about to go to jail.
Mm-hmm. I could see that.
So I'm in jail a lot as a background. But for the roles that I'm doing, I did a commercial. I did 2 commercials recently. One for Girl Scouts. No. Yeah, I think it was for the Girl Scouts. And another one was for Girls and Boys Club. Something like that. But on both of those, I was featured as, with the look that I have, that rough look, like a street guy, homeless. Not necessarily homeless, but on the seedy side of town.
Yeah.
And it works for me. I mean, I get paid.
And let's dig a little bit deeper into Mexican Jerry. So, things I am curious about. I never make it to set, so I don't know how much people do, how much they're on set, that sort of thing. During that sequence of that scene, how much is you? Do you only have the one close-up, or were you actually running through the fields with everybody else when there goes Jerry, there goes Jerry, there goes Jerry?
There was a drone shot specific for that, where they didn't want me to go too fast, and I agreed with them. Because when you do something, you gotta do it like 15 times. But as I'm that one character that's weaving through, and it's a drone shot, that was me, and they sped it up a little bit, I think. But the other ones coming through, I really don't remember. I think that they had several other people in outfits, but they didn't film it when I was there.
Okay.
And for us, the main stuff we filmed was when he comes up on me and touches me, and I yell at him, and how the vines wrap him up against the tree. Yeah. So we're basically yelling at each other, and then I turned away and run off, but that didn't make it for some reason. Well, it didn't need to.
And how much research did you do for your character? How in depth do you go with that character? Even though it's only one line, are you thinking of backstories? Are you trying to figure out why are you here as Jerry, or are you just showing up and delivering your lines because that's what they gave you? Or
I do a lot of mental work with every role I have, because just like in this one, it's one freaking line, but it is memorable, and it's as memorable as I make it. So there's several things that go into play. I try to see it from the director's point of view, and if the director has work out there that I can research, I'll research so I can kind of see what his or her style is, and maybe get an idea of what they would want. And then, along with that, is what would that actual character play itself out as? You know, to me, this guy's been hired. The character was hired by Jerry. Mexican Jerry's hired by Jerry in order to set a trap. So this guy has to be scary and has to have the nerve to be the trap, because you can't necessarily know what's if it's going to go as planned and then execute it. So yeah, I put a lot of that into play. There was my very first role that I did, for example, because I don't have training as an actor. I've used everything that I learned as a dancer, and since then, when I'm on set and I'm watching actors, it's like a master class, and that's how I get most of my training, doing that and auditioning and playing roles. But my very first one, I had no idea it was as a homeless guy. It's Karma, a short film, and I love the director, Richard Goldstein. I've worked with him since we did the short for Sherry, or Sherry's short. You can hear my Mexican accent in there. Sherry's short. Well, he directed that as well.
Wow.
But yeah, I love Richard. That first one, it was for a homeless guy, and I didn't really know where to start to research it. He didn't have any lines. It was intentional. I was the lead character, yet there was no lines, no dialogue to lean on. So what I did is I went and borrowed from a local grocery store a cart with permission. And on Friday mornings, like right about afternoon, I would park my truck. I had a gig downtown where I was the bar manager. So what I did is I got permission for 2 weeks to not show up, and I would park my truck there so it wouldn't get towed. And from Friday afternoon till Sunday night, I would spend the day downtown, that entire weekend as a homeless guy.
Wow. And
I'll tell you what, the scariest part is that at one point, you have to fall asleep.
Yeah. On the street.
On the street. And be vulnerable. And so I did that 2 weekends, and it was a very, very weird, different experience, but it prepared me for that role.
That is amazing.
Thank you.
That is method acting.
That's what I've learned since, that's called method acting. That role led to me being, we submitted at the Marietta Film Festival when I first got here, and that role led to, they nominated me for Best Actor. I didn't win. We had a bunch of nominations for that short. And the important part of that is that because I was nominated, one of the judges happened to be with an agency. So afterwards, I just went up and I was like, yo, you've seen me act. Obviously, you were a judge. I need representation. Let's work something out. And she said, call me on Monday. And I did, and sent me sides. I sent them back. They signed me. And that little short film that I knew, that I prepared so well for, landed me an agent.
That's awesome.
So it's those things that you don't know where it could lead, but when you do it with an open heart and with as much of you and talent as you can, it brings fruitful things. And the name of the movie is called Karma. Imagine that. How crazy is that?
Oh, that's perfect.
Karma. So I do prepare sometimes a lot, and I try to prepare as much as possible.
Cool. Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and take a break real quick, and then we will be right back with a little bit more of Indy Sifuentes.
This episode brought to you by Mi Batos. Mi Batos are all shot callers. Holla ballers. Woo!
Hello and welcome back to the Above Average Joe Show. Our guest today here is still Indiana Sifuentes.
Woo!
Woohoo! Is correct. Indiana, you were born in Mexico.
Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua, Mexico.
And how long were you there, and when did you move to the States, and what is the history on that? I'm just curious.
Okay, so my family's been living on the border, on that region, the frontera, for many generations. And for example, my dad was born here in the U.S., but I was born on the other side because he wanted to be living in Mexico at the time. It was very different back then. The borders were very open. To come across, you paid either a fine or something, and then you came across. That's how it was. So I was born in Juarez, and my parents lived there for a while, and yet we moved back and forth because we have family on both sides of the border. So we moved back and forth for a while during my early childhood. Then I went to school there and here. But at about, I was going into the third grade in Mexico, which should have been the third grade here. But because of my age and because I didn't speak English, I got put into kindergarten, which I failed because I was bored. And I didn't care. I was a little rebellious. They wanted me to play with a giraffe, and I wanted to read, and nothing got done. Neither one got done because I would always be in trouble. But so I would spend summers in Mexico, for example, summer break.
Okay.
But that was more deep in central Mexico, in Durango, with my grandmother, my grandpa, my uncles and cousins. And so I would have a whole different summer experience than everybody else. Out there, you're not allowed in the house because you're pestering. If you're going to be in the house, they're going to give you chores. So you don't go in the house. Yeah. You play outside with all the kids, and you do that all day. Mm-hmm. Which is, I think, what's made me more comfortable around groups and managing large situations like that are social, as opposed to people here who rarely went to go outside, maybe to a park, but not a lot of nothingness to it. Yeah. Unless it's a planned trip, most Americans don't really go out, like just out.
Yeah.
Camping or anything like that. So it gave me a very, very, very different view of how the world worked out here for us. And yeah, we lived back and forth. I thought that's how everybody in the world lived until later, years later. Oh, you don't have to wait in line 3 hours just to go across to see grandma?
And then fast forward a little bit. You already touched on this a little bit, but you are a ballet dancer. You have studied and trained in ballet in Texas.
Yes, I hold a baccalaureate in ballet and a master's of art in dance and public speaking. I went to West Texas A&M University for that. I did both my bachelor's and master's in 4 years flat. Wow. Back then it was rough, but yeah. I was broke, I was poor, and I couldn't afford to just live for 2 extra years. So I put in everything, and I did it in 4 years flat. I started dancing in El Paso, Texas. I started dancing folklorico, which is the Mexican hat dancing with the mariachi and that kind of music that most people associate with it. Then I delved into flamenco as well, which is the gypsy style dancing. Yep. But the big show in El Paso was called Viva El Paso, which is an outdoor musical theater, and they hired dancers. So I tried out for that, and I was just so in love with dance, and I was 17, I believe, which is late to start a dance career.
Yeah.
But I was so impassioned with it and so hard-headed that when people told me that I needed to go after something that was actually achievable, I didn't care. And I did. I auditioned for Viva, and I made it for 1 year. Then the next year they didn't take me, and I was going crazy in El Paso. I didn't want to get stuck in a maquiladora as middle management or something. And I went. Then I got hired on a show called Texas Musical Drama, and that's where I met my ballet master and mistress. And that was just south of Amarillo, Texas. Mm-hmm. Lone Star Ballet is based in Amarillo, Texas, and that's who ran it. The directors artistic director was Neil Hess, and he was my teacher that I went to study ballet with in Texas, Canyon, Texas. That's where West Texas A&M University is at. So I went to study with him knowing that I wanted to be the absolute best dancer I could be. And when I got there, I sucked. Aww. I was so bad. But long story short, I learned a lot of respect for the basics and the groundwork, the foundation of anything that you do. And so I was able to accomplish the unachievable by becoming a professional dancer at such a late age in my life. Because everybody goes to dance, has been studying since they were like 2, 3. To be pro is so hard that you have to have done it all your life, have all that training. I was lucky that they needed male dancers, and I was a straight male dancer, very, very macho movements from where I come from compared to the other dancers. Yeah. And so that also helped me garner attention because the fans, the sponsors, everybody that loved the ballet loved to see the way I portrayed those roles because they were very, very masculine. And that served in my favor because I didn't have a lot of skill. The talent was there, but the skill takes years. Yeah. Now I follow on my acting career. The way I prepare for everything now is based on all of that. I would spend hours after a long day. So my days would start at 4 in the morning. And then because I had to work at McDonald's between up to like 8 in the morning. There was the only job that was open early enough or late enough that I could, because it's a small town, they roll up the sidewalks like at 4. So early morning, I would work, and then I go to class, and classes would go all the way to like 3, I think, something like that. I would go to Amarillo, I would study Taekwondo. I would come back, we would have rehearsals, and we'd end at about 10 or 11. At that point, what I would do is I would stay behind after everybody left, and all I would do is practice the basic steps like a tendu, a fondu, a plie, the very basic steps. And I do it 1,000 times. And every night, all those basic steps. Once you have the foundation, everything is possible.
And that's the hardest part, too. Those repetitions, they get painful after a while.
And you've got to practice it perfectly. Because if you practice wrong, you learn it wrong. Yeah. And you have to be precise. It's muscle memory. And you have to be so precise. And you have to have so much dedication. Because without that perseverance, you can't accomplish it. You can't do anything. You won't make it. You'll fail. Yeah. In fact, I have something that I've followed since then that I carry in my wallet. It's a quote from one of our more famous presidents, Calvin Coolidge, I believe. Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. And that's how I feel. Wow. It could be looked at as you just don't know how to give up and then you'll be the last man standing. Or it can be as just you don't give up because you know where you're going. So you have to be determined and persistent, which means you have to know what you want. Yeah. And I know what I want.
Which brings up another question. I read this somewhere on the internet. I don't know if it was on your IMDb or if I Googled you or what. But you also have a history as a pugilist.
Yes.
Which, for people who don't know, a pugilist is...
It's a boxer.
It is.
It's the beautiful art. Growing up in El Paso, some rough neighborhoods, and I made friends with some guys who had an underground gym, like literally in a basement. We were lucky to have pads, kind of thing. No helmet, no gear for head protection, any of that. And we studied old school. We would often go also to San Juan Gym, which is in a rough part of town. And I loved it. It was one of those things in El Paso and in the hood. You have to learn how to defend yourself. And I was a big nerd. I've been a nerd my whole life. I love to read. I love science. And it helped me because my nerd friends were always getting picked on. And I was always the last guy the bully picked on because, in Mexico, when the bullies come at you, they got metal lunch boxes. And then here they have designer, like soft, fluffy lunch sacks. So they hit you with that. You're like, ¿Qué pendejo? And you hit them once, and it's over. And having that training helped me to be me without being afraid of being me. Because all my nerd friends were always afraid growing up.
Yeah.
And there was no reason for it. It's just bullies are everywhere. And that was why I loved taking that training. I never went far with it because I didn't like to fight sponsored fights and stuff.
Yeah.
That required way too much out of my time. But we did do a lot of underground fighting, like Fight Club stuff, but where people get paid.
Yeah.
And that was fun. And then for years while I was studying ballet, I studied Yodoquan as well, which helps me. All of that has helped me with my stunt work. I do all my stunt work out here. With everything I've done all my stunt work.
And then we'll fast forward a little bit again to, I think it was only like a couple weeks ago, to where you met one of your acting idols.
Yes.
Mr. Danny Trejo. Well, tell me about meeting him and what that was like.
So, meeting Danny Trejo is on a list that we've set quite a little while ago. I want him to to play a character as a target in the web show that we do, the show that we have called the Hypersensitive Hitman. Now, Hypersensitive Hitman, he's armed, he's dangerous, and he's allergic. They're about 3 minutes long each. It's a short form comedy series. It takes us 1 day to film each episode. And it's lighthearted. Although you wouldn't think it would be lighthearted because it's about a hitman, but it's lighthearted and it's funny. That's all it is. And our goal is to have Danny Trejo in episode 1 of season 2. We are almost done filming all of season 1. We have 2 more episodes, 1 next Sunday and then 2 Sundays after that. And then we'll be done with that. So the goal is to somehow get him, whether he can barter with us somehow, or if we can find the funding to hire him, because I know he's expensive.
Yeah.
Somehow, I don't know how it's going to work out, but it's going to work out because I have faith.
Yeah.
I have faith that what I'm doing is going to get us there. So when I had the opportunity to meet him, he was down here to watch the Rams lose in the Super Bowl.
R.I.P.
And he brought out his taco truck. So as part of his exposure to his taco truck and his taco business, he did a meet and greet, which he doesn't do much.
Yeah.
And yeah, I made sure I was down here and I got to meet him. We talked for a little bit. He was under a lot of pressure and he was tired.
Yeah.
I left some salsa that I made, some homemade salsa and some homemade chips with his manager, so hopefully he got to taste them with my card. But that was, my goal was just to meet him for the first time. And I was nervous. I've never been, I don't get nervous around celebrities or anything.
You got starstruck.
I was starstruck. I wanted to do a GIF with him, but even though I had practice and everything, when we got there, I forgot to even ask him. He was so awesome. It was It was a bucket list item. I live off of my bucket list. Those are my goals in life now. And hey, he was on there. So first contact with him went really well. The next one I want to make when I can sit down and talk to him about the Hypersensitive Hitman. And the Hypersensitive Hitman is it's what's tied to the longer goal. The longer goal is to meet Robert Rodriguez and work alongside with him to represent and further Hispanic films and shows in the Atlanta area. Because we have the talent here, but nobody's focusing on it like Tyler Perry's done with the African American market. He's done an amazing job. Robert Rodriguez has done that in Texas. I want to do it here, but I want his help because he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
I have the passion. I can speak with people. I can make things happen. But he has some experience and money that we could use to make this happen. So Danny Trejo is Robert Rodriguez's uncle.
Yeah.
So I want to submit. What we want to do is submit the Hypersensitive Hitman to a Ray network, which is Robert Rodriguez's network. That'll make my first contact with him. Mm-hmm. But if I can also submit it with a note attached that in this next season we've already got so and so coming, including Danny Trejo, that's going to garner attention in a different way.
That's awesome.
So I'm hoping, and really going for that. But regardless, whatever happens, that's the goal, is to meet with him, talk to him, because that vato, Robert Rodriguez, he has publicly stated that he wants to support what we're doing. He wants to support filmmakers that have original content, that are telling stories that aren't being told, and that, well, we're rogues. We don't follow any rules. Every episode of Hypersensitive Hitman, we haven't paid anyone because we don't have money. We haven't paid ourselves, but everything comes from the group. Every person that we have there, every single filming day, wants to be there, and their attitude shows it, and they're happy to help us make this project come alive. And the only way I pay them is with food. So I make sure, and it's usually tacos of one sort or another, but they love my food, which is another thing. I want to do a taco truck to compete with Danny, like taco a taco. I love cooking. I don't want to do it for a living, but I want to share it with the world.
Yeah.
And that's how I pay everyone, all my people, the whole crew. After we film, we sit down and we have a beautiful shared time with good food. And people don't understand how important it is to feed your people well. If you feed your people well, they are more willing and happy to do things.
Yeah.
And not complain about it.
You can do a lot better on a full stomach. As long as people aren't starving, they're okay.
But not just starving, good food.
Yeah.
Some of this background work that I do.
Not cheese balls.
I take my own burritos. I don't even argue. They're not gonna give a shit. I don't care. I don't need it. I'm not there for it.
Yeah.
But it sucks. If we had good crafty, if we had great food, we don't. Sometimes we do. When we work with The Rock, damn, it's good. He takes care of everybody.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference in how people feel about themselves if you give them something good to eat.
Yeah.
And I found that Robert Rodriguez preaches about it. That's how he did El Mariachi. So I've been following a lot of the same theories he does, but we're doing completely different things. My goal is to get some funding from him once he sees the kind of work we do and says, here, look, here's $250,000. I want to see this. And then we'll make it happen. Or he might say, you know what, let's partner up on something. We'll start at a different level and blah, blah, blah. But the end goal is to do what we're doing without a lot of restrictions and to make good entertainment. And to make sure, this is very important to me, that everybody that works with us is treated with respect and that they love being there and they would come back if that was an option.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and take another quick break. Listen to a few words from our sponsors, and we will be right back with some more Indiana Sifuentes.
This episode brought to you by Mangoes. Yo tango el mango.
This episode brought to you by the brand new Thermal Thong. It's the only battery-operated heater for your Peter, the Thermal Thong.
Now, back to the show.
And we are back here with Indiana Sifuentes, and we are going to have a quick little question off. Indiana, what are some of your favorite movies?
Oh, my. I don't know if you watch a lot of sci-fi, but there was this series called Firefly.
Love Firefly.
Firefly.
R.I.P. One season for some insane reason.
I have introduced so many people to it, and when they get to the end, they're like, I'm ready for season 2. Just like...
Everybody's been ready for season 2.
I love that show, and consequently Serenity, the movie that came out 10 years after they were canceled. And still, so much as time has happened, and I'm hoping that
There's been talks of an animated series, at least.
An animated series would be cool, actually. But I want a live action. I want something that's, I want to connect with those characters.
Yeah.
One of my lifetime goals, bucket list item, is I want to be captain of my own starship.
Nice.
Have a show. That is. Serenity definitely be one of those. I love everything about it. From the cussing and Chinese, so he could get through the censors.
Joss Whedon is so brilliant.
Yes, he is. I really want to work with him. And all of those actors, Nathan Fillion.
Nathan. I love him as Captain Hammer. If you
remember. Oh, that was awesome. Sherry and I just watched it again the other day just because it's Nathan Fillion.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Neil Patrick Harris, MPH.
Yeah. He does amazing in that role. I was not expecting much from Neil Patrick Harris because I hadn't really seen him in much when that came out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was on How I Met Your Mother for I think 2 seasons so far, so I've seen him for a little bit.
Yeah, that character got a little tired, but it was funny.
Yeah. It
was funny, but it got a little tired and dated pretty, into the 4th season. But I love the way he interpreted.
But Barney was great.
Mm-hmm.
Love the character of Barney, exactly. Keep going. What else you got on your list?
I've got Grandma's Boy, which is one of those movies you can put in and just chill to.
I have never seen it.
You've never seen Grandma's Boy?
No.
It is an epic tale about a stoner and his video games. You got to watch it.
I will watch it at some point.
There's a monkey in there that knows karate.
You've got me sold already.
It's a monkey that knows karate.
Karate monkey.
And as a male dancer, I connected very closely with Footloose.
Which version?
The good one.
The first one,
yes.
Man. Kevin Bacon. Dirty Dancing. Yeah, Dirty Dancing. I loved the way Patrick Swayze portrayed that character. He was the son of a trained dancer, and she taught him he was one of those people that grew up learning how to dance. I grew up dancing socially because I grew up in a Mexican family and the uncles never danced. And so anytime there was a boy willing to dance, all the tias and cousins and everyone. So I grew up dancing like that. I love that. Then there's stuff like White Nights. Have you ever seen that? Sounds familiar. I'm trying to remember if I've seen it.
It's a story about a ballet dancer that escapes Russia. And then he happens to be on a plane that's flying over Russia, and the plane goes down. And so he's captured again. Oh, wow.
I don't think I've seen it.
It's Mikhail Baryshnikov. There's some beautiful dance work, ballet, and there's also some tap dancing with, I don't remember his name, who was an expatriate living in Siberia at the time, an American.
Oh, wow.
American from the Vietnam War. It's a great movie as far as dance stuff. But the other stuff I love is like Matrix.
Love The Matrix.
Battle LA, Los Angeles. I love those because it explores aliens and humanity. A lot of special effects.
Do you believe in
practical
aliens?
Effects. Oh, I believe. Yes.
Short answer, yes.
Yeah, I'm a scientist, and probability, just looking at numbers, it's impossible not for there to be other life forms.
Yeah.
As far as us existing at the same time and close enough to each other that we make contact. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I
totally believe that there are aliens out there, or there's at least something that's causing a lot of these alien sightings, alien happenings, which may not be aliens in the way we think of them. Maybe it's some other dimension that we can't describe, which is also what happens when people see ghosts in the paranormal. But I believe that somehow all of that does exist in our world, even though we can't figure out scientifically how to prove it.
Because it happens when nobody's taking measurements.
Yes.
Which is not a coincidence. I think it's people, I think it's ourselves in the future coming back to visit and interfere or just take notes. And, that's what people are seeing and reporting. I don't think it's aliens.
What about haunted places where people have died? Do you feel that's people from the past ghosts that are still stuck there?
I've seen ghosts. I don't know what I think they're ghosts. I used to be a manager at a strip club, and at the end of the night, it caught me several times, at least a dozen times, where I'm closing up and out of the corner of my eye, I see this lady over there she's still sitting there, with a client and shit, and I go to focus, and then she's not there. It was a stripper that got murdered by one of her ex-boyfriends.
Wow.
Or an ex-boyfriend. I don't mean to make her sound bad. I don't really know much about her. I just know that she was murdered in the club.
Yeah.
And she would show up. I worked in Camino Real, downtown, old downtown building in El Paso, Texas. There's bullet holes from the Mexican-American Revolution. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, not the Mexican-American. It's on the Mexican-American border, but it's the Mexican Revolution, Pancho Villa.
Yeah.
There's bullet holes on that building. It's that close to there. The owner of that building, when it was first built, he married his daughter got married there, and on her wedding night, she went up to the top floor and threw herself.
Ooh.
And so she wanders through there, and you will run into her. She played the piano one time while I was there at night by myself. And it scared the crap out of me. Then I went over and I just hung out. All lights were out.
So you hung out at the piano?
Yeah.
While she was still playing, or did she stop at that point?
It had stopped, and I went over there and hung out and had a little cocktail.
Were you chatting with her at all?
I tried, but I didn't get any response.
Yeah. Which typically is what happens, but they will still typically hear and...
That's what I was hoping.
Hey, you're not causing any harm. We're friends, and
I don't want her to blow something.
Unless you were cursing her out or something.
I did curse a little, and it scared the crap out of me. But yeah, I've seen those are some experiences. When I was little, my cousin and I, we were at my grandparents' home, which was it was like a mansion. It was this big property in Juarez, and we were out in the backyard, outside of the actual. Branches of the house, and we heard some crying. So we went to the back, and there was this huge shed, and we opened the shed. There was a lady there, and she was kind of see-through, but she was crying, and we went to talk to her, and she looked at us, and she was dead, and it was like Llarona. And we ran, and nobody believed us. But I saw it, and I didn't see it alone.
Wow.
And this is in Juarez. Very scary, La Llarona.
Man. I love a good ghost story. I love ghost stories. Still have not had any experiences. No.
You haven't had any experiences?
I've wanted to, and it's just never happened. I don't know if I'm just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't know if I'm somehow not sensitive enough to what's going on, or...
Well, we are right now in the process of trying to map out how to do a comedy series about ghost hunters, because there's nothing like it out there that would be, and it can be done here. There's so many cemeteries in this town so many old buildings.
Old buildings, yeah.
So many things that you have access to that you don't in other big cities.
Yeah.
And we are thinking of doing something like that. I'll let you know. I'll let you know if you want to come find a host.
Yeah, I would totally do that. So let's go ahead and wrap things up then. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Indiana, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Joe. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome.
I really enjoyed today.
Yay. For anybie listening, where can they find out more about Mr. Indiana Sifuentes?
All right. So for all my socials, Actor Indie, INDIE, Actor Indie will let you find all my socials on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Also, if you like GIFs, we did a library of GIFs for my patron people, the ones that help us put together Hypersensitive Hit Show. So if you go on to a GIF bar and you type in Actor Indie, one word, you'll get access to whatever GIFs that platform is carrying. We put that library out for everyone to use for fun. It started with our patrons, and now it's for all our fans.
And also on YouTube, you have a couple of YouTube channels or YouTube shows that you have that we didn't get a chance to discuss yet. If people want to see your YouTube shows, you've got Cooking with Indie, you've got Drinking with Indie. How do they find those? Do they just type that in and find it, or can they just type in Indie?
So on YouTube, you can find me under Indiana Sifuentes. But if you put in Cooking with Indie or Drinking with Indie, it should also take you there. It's under my page as Indiana Sifuentes, and there's a library of them. We have 3 seasons so far of Cooking with Indie, and we have digital cookbooks available with those. We also have actual physical cookbooks for season 1 and season 2 for anybody that's interested. And I can sign those, and I can also sign the digital one, autograph them for you if you want to buy one. Then for Drinking with Indie, we've got 1 season of that in a cocktail book, digital and physical. And so for any of those, all of those recipes are available for free online under YouTube, under the YouTube channels. There's basically 3 things that are important. It has to be cheap, it has to be easy, and it has to be good. And so that's how all my recipes are. They're easy, they're cheap, and they're good. And they're all available for free. But like I said, for those of you that want to have a physical copy for you, then you can order that online. And the digital version is great because everything is linkable. So if you're having a problem figuring out how to do something, you just click on it on your tablet, and it takes you to the YouTube video that shows you how I did it.
Awesome. And thank you again, everybody, for hanging out with us. Thank you for spending your time with us. Thank you, Indy, for hanging out.
Muchas gracias.
Adios, amigos.
La Llarona. Thank you again to our special guest, Indiana Sifuentes. The Above Average Show was written and produced by me. Theme song composed and or arranged by yours truly. Be sure to check out our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitters. And look us up on Spotify, Stitcher, and iTunes. You can also check out another podcast I co-host, The Extra Unordinary, and other great media content by Moon Possum Productions at moonpossum.com.